What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel, not welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed. I know it's been a minute since you've seen me. Let me give y'all the updates really quickly, okay? If you are not new here and you're familiar with what's currently going on with me, I am in the process of switching to a different antidepressant. I feel like Zoloft worked in the past and child, she ain't working so well this time. But the crazy thing is my doctor upped my dosage and told me to use it for 3 weeks. And he was like, check in 3 weeks. We'll see if, you feel any differently. And I have not. And so I've been waiting for the appointment that I just had to say, no, I need something else that's not working. And I said that. And then he was like, okay, we'll switch you to Lexapro. And child, why as soon as the visit was over, I started to feel good. Like I went to the gym, had a good little workout. I was very productive. And then I was like, should I have switched? Like, is it working or is it not, girl? I'm like, dang, what if it just needed like 3 weeks and 2 days to work? And now I'm being switched. I don't know. I'm tired. But we're gonna get it together. Okay, that's pretty much all the updates I have for me. And look who still live here, y'all's niece. I know y'all been wondering about her. It has been like 5 to 7 weeks of consistent training. Her trainer comes to my house for like an hour, sometimes a little over an hour and a half. One time it was 2 hours, girl, and works with us. And I've seen improvements, like friends, family, they've also noticed improvements. And so, child, we're gonna work it out with Bella. I have not had any more like fights between her and Blue. Blue is a lot less patient with her nowadays. So her trainer did say she was a bully. She's just a bully for whatever reason. She likes to protect her space. She feels like, girl, don't come within my personal space or I will fight and bite. She is very protective over things she considers hers, me, Blue, her personal space. And we're just trying to get her to a place where she can go places and relax and realize, like, girl, nobody is here to fight and bite you. It's okay. Definitely have seen a lot of progress from her. We're still working, okay? And it's funny because at one session, the trainer bought his dog, which is a beautiful little, I believe it's a Australian Shepherd, like a miniature one. He was so cute. And Bella bullied this dog relentlessly for 50 minutes straight, like 50 minutes straight. And finally the trainer was like, you know what? You want to fight him? Go ahead. And then she just looked like, on second thought, no, I don't feel like fighting. Like it was just she's just so chaotic. And then she just followed him around, sniffing him, and was perfectly unproblematic. Like she's literally nuts. The next session she had with a Belgian Malinois. I believe that's how you say it, girl. It might not be how you say it. Y'all know what I give. That might not be how you say it, but you know what I'm talking about. This dog was certified alpha female, and she was not going for any of Bella's shenanigans. This was the 2-hour session. Bella initially went at this dog and jumped up to bite her like face on. This dog swatted my baby, smacked her out of the air. Like, I honestly could not help but laugh. And it pissed Bella off. She started growling. She was so upset. We took a little break just to let her calm down, get herself together. And she still tried to bully this dog, which she wasn't having it. And Bella eventually gave up, but I don't think she really likes her like that. We've had a couple more sessions with her, and then this week we'll have a session with her and another dog, another female and child. Bella is being socialized, and she has to learn how to get along nicely, and we getting there. Keep us in your prayers, okay? But enough about us. Today's video, we are getting into a very interesting case. Today, we are getting into the case of Marianne Shore, Melvin Ignatow, and Brenda Schaefer. It's a very wild one. But before we get into all of the things and all of the things I've gotten into, I have to give a big thanks to Care Of for sponsoring today's video. Care Of is a subscription-based supplement service that delivers right to your door and is designed to make it very easy to stick to a vitamin regimen. I have been using several of their products for almost a year now, and I love them. I'm particularly pleased with the keratin for hair health and the multivitamin plus iron to fill in those nutritional gaps, which is super important. I definitely noticed a difference in how good I feel and function with consistent use. One of my main concerns when I first got started was like strengthening my nails, and I've definitely noticed a huge difference in that with consistent use. Like my nails grow, they're real strong, okay? real strong. It's really quick and easy to get started. Visit takecareof.com and take their quiz to find out what's recommended for you. At any point, you can retake the quiz, add in extra support, or shift your focus. They offer research-backed ingredients to help your digestion, immunity, as well as stress and mood. And who does not need that? You can also use their app to log how you feel and track the benefits that you notice with consistent use. Use my code for 50% off your first order. And again, thank you, Care of, for sponsoring today's video. I also want to note that their prices are great, okay? So after your first order, you'll still receive great products at a great price. Now, let's get into this wild and crazy case of these three. Brenda Sue Schaefer grows up in Louisville, Kentucky, where she meets her first love, Van, during their sophomore year of high school. The two lovebirds fall head over heels for each other. And on the surface, their relationship looks really cute, really innocent. The two of them are inseparable and they vow to wait until marriage to engage in physical activity. Immediately after graduation, Van proposes to Brenda, and Brenda very excitedly accepts. But despite the appearance of their relationship, things are not as perfect as they appear on the surface. Brenda has been very sheltered by her family and as a result is very naive. She's also very innocent and somewhat insecure. In addition to all of this, she's very codependent on Van. Van is a lot more outgoing, a lot more boisterous, and is also very possessive over Brenda. He recognizes and also loves how malleable she is. He makes all of the decisions within their relationship and he pretty much controls just about everything that Brenda does. One of the first issues that the newlyweds encounter in their marriage is the fact that they're not really compatible in the bedroom. Brenda is very vanilla, very modest, and Van wants to be a lot more adventurous, which becomes a big problem for them. And this, paired with how controlling he is, over time brings Brenda to question whether or not the two of them are a good fit for each other. She is questioning whether or not this is a dynamic that she is willing to live with for the rest of her life. And it's not looking like it. Now, Van gets himself a job working as a dispatcher for the Louisville Police Department, and this does not pay him that well. But unfortunately, this does not stop him from blowing money fast and spending a lot of his income on frivolous things. The two of them argue frequently about his spending habits and how irresponsible he is with their finances. As if all of this is not stressful enough on their marriage, Van also begins drinking heavily and using a lot of drugs recreationally, adding to Brenda's growing disdain for him. Now, Van, he does want his marriage to work. He does love Brenda. So he suggests that the two of them go to couples therapy to try to help navigate their relationship issues. And they do, but it has very little impact on their relationship. And just 3 years into their union, it becomes very apparent that the two of them are not all that compatible after all, and it's just simply not going to work. Now, Brenda realizes this, but being raised in a very strict Catholic household, her faith guides pretty much all of her decisions. And so she really struggles with the idea of getting a divorce, as does her family. The Catholic Church has taught her that married couples have taken vows under God and should remain together and work things out no matter what. So although she's realized that this is not working for her, she does just try to stick it out. The 4th year of their marriage is nothing but toxicity, arguments, pettiness, and bitterness toward each other. Because at this point, neither of them really are happy in the marriage. And so, child, it's just a whole shit show. Okay? Brenda is becoming more and more comfortable with the idea of marriage, and she vents to her mother a lot. Her mother, by this point, is on the same page with her and is encouraging her to separate from her husband for her happiness. But her father is not in support of the divorce. He apparently tells her that she's made her bed and she needs to stay there and get things straightened out, which she does attempt to do, but ultimately she decides to put her her happiness first and leave Van behind. The shame, the guilt, and embarrassment from being a divorced woman was the lesser of two evils in her mind. Because, girl, what am I supposed to do? Stay here forever and be unhappy? No. She did not want to stay there and remain trapped in a very toxic and loveless marriage. After her divorce, she spends a couple of her years as a single woman, just focusing on her career and adjusting to independence. So it is a while before she is even open to the idea of dating again. But one evening, she meets a man by the name of Jim Rush at a local TGI Fridays. And Jim is very attractive, very charming and charismatic. He's also successful. He works as a dentist. And he seemingly has a very genuine interest in Brenda. So she decides to give Jim a chance, which is not a decision that she regrets at first. Jim showers her with gifts. He's very affectionate. He's very loving, very romantic, and makes really grand gestures in showcasing his love for her. And when I say grand gestures, one time Jim rented a billboard near downtown Louisville to profess his feels for Brenda. And the message was really cute. It said, "Brenda, there is not enough room here for me to express all of my love for you." Cute. The couple travels frequently to tropical destinations. They also take a lot of family trips with her family, who all love him. Everyone expects for the two of them to eventually tie the knot, but just as with her first situation with Van, things are not as peachy as they appear. Little Jim here is an alcoholic. Now, Jim really wants to marry Brenda, but Brenda learned from her first situation not to ignore the red flags, and her reservations about marrying Jim really frustrate him. But yeah, I guess not enough for him to stop drinking. And after 8 long years of them being together, Jim pens a letter to Brenda expressing this frustration, along with other minor grievances about their relationship, and pretty much breaks up with her. She is heartbroken. Though she did not want to marry him, she loved him and had hopes that one day he would, come around to be the man that she needed him to be completely. Child, Jim basically said, "Take me as I am or have nothing at all." Now, Brenda and her best friend Joyce, they'd had similar experiences with love. Both had been scorned, and at this point, both of them had decided that their next partners would have to be older men who were mature and financially secure. Joyce had recently begun dating a man who fit that prototype and figured what better way to help her friend get back into the dating pool and get over Jim than to hook her up with her new man's friend. And he knows just the guy for Brenda, Melvin Ignatow. Now, Melvin Henry Ignatow was born in Pennsylvania, March 26, 1938, making him an Aries child. And he eventually moves to Louisville for work. Melvin is older, he's well established, financially secure, and has great character, according to Joyce's man, Bob, who has been a longtime friend of his. Now, Joyce convinces Brenda to go on a double date with her and Bob just to get to know Melvin and see if she liked his vibe without too much pressure of them being one-on-one. And Brenda agrees. It sounds like a good time, and why not? This guy comes pre-approved and sounds like the type of person that she would like to date. And so the four of them go out on a boat trip for their double date, and everyone has a great time. Brenda and Melvin really hit it off, so much so that he invites her out on a second date the following day, but this time just the two of them. This second date goes well, and they actually have several more dates, during which Mel demonstrates a lot of characteristics that Brenda really likes. He comes off as a great listener. He showers her with affection that feels very genuine and different from what she had experienced in the past. His money, his nice home, his boat that he owns, and fancy sports car are all added bonuses. Now, he is not all that physically attractive to Brenda, but that's something that she is willing to look past considering all of the other things. For Brenda, that is a small price to pay, but little does she know there are a bunch of hidden fees that will ultimately make it not worth her while. 2 years into their relationship, Melvin has become increasingly controlling, possessive, overprotective of her, and also abusive. He displays many narcissistic tendencies that are huge red flags to her family, and they very quickly grow to hate him. Brenda would be at work and Melvin will call the office multiple times a day just to check on her or to complain about something that she had done. He would accuse her of being too friendly with her coworkers, especially her boss, and all of them also grow to hate Melvin. And this man, y'all, he was nuts, okay? When he would have work trips overseas to come up, before he'd leave, he would schedule all of their phone calls in advance so she knows when he'll call and can make herself available at those times to answer, despite whatever time it is in Louisville locally for her. And if she misses a call, he would call her phone over and over until she answers. And then he'd have the audacity to have a little attitude like, sorry, it's 3:32 a.m. and I have to be at work at 7. Like, of course I'm sleeping. But all of this is just the half of it because, again, Brenda has found herself in yet another relationship where she and her partner are not sexually compatible. Brenda confides in Joyce, telling her about Melvin's sexual fantasies that she was somewhat uncomfortable with and deemed very bizarre. Orgies, bondage, sensory deprivation, to name a few, are some of the things that Brenda wasn't comfortable with and she just did not like the idea of, but Melvin would pressure her to participate in. And at first she would tell him, no, like I'm not comfortable with that, but he would just continue to pressure her until she eventually gives in and at least gives it a couple tries. But eventually Melvin gets tired of trying to persuade her to participate. And so he offers her these pills that he would call sex tablets. He does not explain exactly what they are, but she reluctantly agrees to take them. And each time that she does, she just completely passes out, wakes up hours later with no recollection of what had happened to her, very sore. So it's very apparent that something had happened. And this really scares her. She begins to worry, like, what is he doing to me when I'm passed out? Like, how far is he willing to take things knowing that I am completely out? And even Joyce at this point is a little concerned. She is like, yeah, girl, you need to leave him. Like, that is not normal and not okay. Around this time, Brenda also begins having conversations with her ex, Jim, and also confides in him about how unhappy she is with Melvin and all of the awful experiences that she has with him. He, of course, also tells her the same that Joyce had told her, that, you know, if you're uncomfortable with all of these things, you need to leave him. But for whatever reason, she is reluctant to do so and remains in the relationship with Melvin before she decides that it is time and best for her to break things off with Melvin and just move on with her life. Now, on September 21st of 1988, Brenda calls Jim and tells him that she'd finally broken things off with Melvin. She just needed to meet with him to give back some jewelry that he had gifted her. Baby, always keep the jewelry, okay? Now, Melvin is both angered and devastated by the breakup, and he decides to turn to an old lover of his for comfort, Marianne Shore. Mary and Melvin had dated for 8 years prior to his relationship with Brenda. Their relationship was filled with a lot of passion and intimacy, but the problem was it was just that. Mary was in love with Melvin and she wanted to marry him. However, Melvin had only ever seen Mary as an object used to fulfill his fantasies. He did not have a romantic interest in her, and he never wanted her, the person. He just wanted sex, basically. And unlike Brenda, Mary was always open and willing to try and participate in whatever acts he wanted to explore. The two of them had continued to meet up here and there for their little sexual escapades, even during the relationship with Brenda. Mary still had very deep feelings for Melvin, and she was basically like putty in his hands, willing to do any and everything for just a bit of his attention. And Mary is fully aware of he and Brenda's relationship. He was always very open and honest about it, as well as his feelings for Brenda, and Mary loathed this. She was very jealous. She hated Brenda, and she hated the idea that while she very desperately wanted Melvin, he very desperately wanted Brenda. And in her eyes, she'd never truly have a chance of winning him back as long as Brenda was in the picture. On September 24th, just 3 days after she had broken things off with Melvin, Brenda goes missing. And the morning after she is reported missing, her car is found abandoned alongside Interstate 64. The car's right tires are flat, and it appears that the car has been broken into. The car's radio has been stolen, but the most concerning observation is the splatters of blood across the back seat of the car. Now, on the evening that she had gone missing, Brenda had told friends that she was meeting up with Melvin to return the jewelry, and no one had heard from her since. Now, the morning after she had gone missing, which is also, of course, the same morning that they found her car, all of her close friends and family gather at her parents' house, including Melvin. And he is the most distraught and emotional out of everyone. Now, they all know that he is the last person known to have been seen with her, so they're all kind of suspicious. And when they question him about the night before and how it had gone, he willingly tells them his account of that night. According to him, she had picked him up around 3 p.m. Really, Bella? For them to get some closure and for her to also, of course, return the jewelry. The two of them had driven around for a bit, just talking, and then decided to head to Oxmoor Shopping Center, where they arrived about 6:30 p.m. And after spending some time there, they had gone to Captain's quarters to have dinner, where they arrived at 9:30 p.m. And then Brenda had dropped him off at his mother's house around 11:30 p.m. And he says that that is the last time that he had seen or spoken to her. But that was not the end of his night. After she had dropped him off, he claims to had taken his mother's car to Skyline Chili to grab some dinner, or a second dinner, I guess. And the assistant manager of the place does confirm that he was there around midnight and he was there alone. So this kind of adds some credibility to his story, just a little bit, but everybody is still very much suspicious. Now, when asked why they didn't meet up, why hadn't he driven himself and had Brenda pick him up instead, he tells them because he was having car trouble. But the thing is, this car that he's having trouble with is the same car that he's driven to her parents' house the following morning. Why is it good enough to get you here today, sir, but wasn't good enough last night? The investigators on the case begin to believe undoubtedly that whatever happened to Brenda, he was responsible for. And Melvin is kind of picking up on everybody's energy and reading the room, because he then makes a call to his lawyer friend telling him that he needed his help, that Brenda has gone missing and he wants to sit down and talk to police more thoroughly. But of course, he would like his friend to act as his lawyer and give him a little bit of guidance. Now, he is interviewed by the local police as well as the FBI, and in each interview, he attempts to dominate the conversation by flooding them with questions instead of allowing them to ask him a bunch of questions. He's also very casual with them, referring to them by like their first names as if they're old friends instead of, officer this or detective that. And once the press begins to pick up the disappearance of Brenda, they definitely highlight the dysfunction in the relationship between Brenda and Melvin, along with the fact, of course, that he had been the last to had seen her. And so the public pretty much formulates the same perception that investigators have. This man has done something to this lady. He knows where she is. At this point, Melvin becomes super desperate to prove his innocence, because this is affecting his daily life. Like, I'm sure he had a hard time down at the post office and in the grocery store with people believing that he was responsible for this disappearance. Now, here with the American judicial system, the grand jury will listen to evidence presented by prosecutors only to see if there is enough evidence to reasonably suggest that a person has committed a crime. If so, they will issue an indictment against the potential defendant and then go from there. Now, the prosecutor assigned to the investigation invites Melvin to also go in front of the grand jury to present proof of innocence on his own behalf, testify, and clear his name to keep it from getting to that point. Now, his lawyer says he no, like, do not do that. That's the last thing you need to do, sir. And despite his lawyer saying that's like the worst thing that he could do, he decides that he's going to take the stand and prove his innocence because he is not responsible and he is tired of the public treating him like some criminal. His appearance before the grand jury is set for October 16th and it lasts about 4 hours. Now, during his testimony, the prosecutors asked if he had ever placed a towel of chloroform over Brenda's nose and mouth while she was sleeping. He denies having done that, but does admit to keeping a towel soaked with chloroform on their nightstand in the event that he had suffered from some sort of allergy issues during the night. He claims that Brenda had also suffered from allergies and from time to time she would reach over, grab the towel and use it as well. But they had never used it on each other than playfully here and there. And I don't know who plays like that, but apparently, according to Melvin, he and Brenda did from time to time. Now, what they notice is while discussing the chloroform situation, he becomes visibly uncomfortable, probably wondering who had been telling his business and how he had known that. And this is actually something that Brenda had told her friends and family about when she told them about the sex tablets. In an attempt to sway the grand jury and get some sympathy from them, he tells them about his thoughts of ending himself, ending it all, saying goodbye, cruel world, since his love had disappeared, and how he had since found God in a nice Christian church that has brought him back off the ledge. The prosecutor asks, "Do you think God knows what happened to Brenda Schaefer?" To which he responds, "God knows everything." The prosecutor outright asks him, "Did you kill Brenda, Melvin?" And he says, "No, absolutely not. I did not kill her. I would not have laid a finger on that woman." Child, in reality, he had. He had definitely had the Ike Turner spirit on him and had laid quite a few fingers on her in the past. In another attempt to garner sympathy from the grand jury, he elaborates on how much emotional damage there's been done to him by the press smearing his name and implying that he is guilty of something. According to the prosecutor, Melvin comes off as very honest and straightforward. He looks believable here on the stand. His woe is me act is Oscar worthy. It is the Oscars, right? Yeah. And definitely seemed to be working. He tells them that he could not have done anything to Brenda because the night that she had gone missing, he had actually spent with his ex-girlfriend, Mary Ann Shore, and how he had been heartbroken by Brenda's decision to end their relationship. So he had turned to Mary Ann Shore for comfort. And he's had to lean on her over the past couple of weeks for the emotional support that he needed. Now, this is odd because this is the first time that he has ever mentioned the fact that after grabbing food, he had spent the night with his ex. He had never brought up Mary Ann Shore at all before. After speaking with him for 4 hours, they decide to add her to the list of people who need to be spoken to, okay? And here's where things get really crazy. When Mary Ann comes in to testify before the grand jury, she is asked, has she met Brenda in the past? And she responds, yes, just once. When asked what Brenda looked like when she met her, Mary asks, "You mean the last time I saw her?" The last time you saw her should be the only time you saw her if you've only seen her once, right? Realizing that she had made that mistake, she literally stands up and runs out of the courtroom, child, like Forrest Gump. She becomes very distraught. She is very shaken up, crying, nervous, and it takes a moment for her to compose herself, but she manages to pull it together and re-enter the courtroom and continue her testimony. Now, of course, everyone's antennas have gone up because what's going on here, girl? Why are you acting like this? Obviously, it's something going on, something you know. Her own lawyer knows at this point that she's messed up. And at this point, it's better for her to try to strike a deal to protect herself and just tell them what she knows. For her testimony regarding what had happened to Brenda, the prosecutors offer to only charge her with evidence tampering, which would come with a maximum of 5 years in prison. Mary Ann agrees and then sits and tells them the very sick and twisted truth behind what had happened to Brenda. And of course, Melvin had masterminded the whole thing. According to Mary, a couple days before Brenda had gone missing, Melvin had given her a list of materials that he need to bind and torture Brenda. And Mary had gone to the store and purchased everything that he told her that he needed days in advance. Mary had also agreed to allow Melvin to carry out his plan in her home, which they soundproofed days before Brenda had gone missing, and conducted a scream test. Mary stood inside of the house screaming literally as loud as she could, while Melvin stood outside to see how much of it he could hear from the outside to make sure that Brenda's screams would not be heard. Once Melvin was satisfied with everything, the setup, the supply list being completed, Mary's willingness to help him carry out his plan, the two of them dig a deep hole in Mary's backyard, which is supposed to serve as Brenda's grave. On the evening that Brenda picked him up, they didn't do any of those things that he claimed that they had done. Instead, he leads her to Mary Ann Shore's house, where he strips her down and ties her to a glass coffee table. He then spends the next couple of hours essaying her, torturing her, sodomizing her, all while Mary Ann stands there taking pictures of the entire process. Afterward, he takes Brenda to the bedroom to finish her off using chloroform, then folds her body up, ties it together with rope, puts her in a garbage bag. Then the two of them place her in the hole that they had dug for her and cover it. All of this information completely blows their minds. Although they had known that Melvin was responsible, they were not prepared for all of this, okay? And surely had they known that she had this much involvement in the process, they would not have offered her a deal that would only put her in prison for a max of 5 years. But here they are. They have Mary wear a wire to go have a conversation with Melvin, hoping that she can get him to talk about what they had done. But unfortunately, he doesn't really say anything incriminating. And unfortunately, the audio wasn't that clear on his part. So some things that they felt could have been incriminating weren't clear enough for them to use in court. So at this point, they're leaning on physical evidence. They go to where Mary tells them Brenda is buried. They begin digging for her, and in the meantime, they also have Melvin arrested. They charge this man with everything they possibly can and set his bail for $500,000. A team goes out to search his home for evidence, and they don't find much. He was collecting news articles about Brenda's disappearance, which was kind of weird, but nothing that's like hardcore evidence that he had done it. What they want are those photos that Mary Ann said she took, but she has no idea where the photos are. They finally get to Brenda's body, which of course is a huge discovery for them, but unfortunately the photos are not buried with her. Her body is packaged exactly as Mary Ann had described it to be. So it is very evident that she is likely telling the truth about everything. Now, because Brenda had been there in the moist ground inside of a bag for 16 months now, there was no viable DNA that could be collected from her remains. But with everything else that they have, they believe that they could successfully prove that Melvin is responsible for this. Because of all of the media coverage that the case had received, they decide to move the case to Kenton County to avoid jury bias. And even though they had recovered her body and had Mary's confession, there was absolutely no physical evidence tying Melvin to any of this. And his lawyers lean heavily on this. According to them, his involvement is merely hearsay. They suggest that Mary Ann had done all of this on her own at her own free will out of jealousy for Brenda, that she wanted Melvin back and would do anything to make room for herself in his life, which I believe was his safety net all along. I think he convinced Mary Ann to have all of this happen at her house and her to go buy all of the things so that if something did go down, like she's basically framed for the murder. Now, during the trial, it does not help that Mary is very weird. Okay? She is giggling throughout the trial, making weird faces, not taking anything seriously. It was like a SNL skit of an actual trial, which was very bizarre. She did not appear to take anything seriously. She had absolutely no remorse, which really negatively impacted her credibility versus Melvin's, and kind of made it seem like Melvin was telling the truth. Like, she seems pretty capable of being this out of her mind evil person. So his defense strategy does not seem so far-fetched after all. The jury takes just 2 hours to deliberate before returning a verdict for Melvin, not guilty on all charges. Now, 9 out of 12 jurors later stated that they did believe that Melvin had done everything that Mary said that he had done, but felt that the prosecutors failed to prove it and that there simply was not enough evidence to convict him. Melvin is released from prison on December 23rd, 1991, just in time to spend the holidays with his friends and family as a free man. And the judge feels so bad about the outcome of the trial that he personally writes a letter to Brenda's family apologizing for how the system had essentially failed them. Now, Melvin might be a free man, but he's still got issues, okay? He's still got problems, because now with all of these legal fees, he is forced to sell pretty much all of his valuables, his car, his home, his jewelry, probably the clothes off of his back, okay? He has to sell it all and pretty much start anew. Meanwhile, Mary Ann is sentenced to her 5 years, and she actually gets out after 3 years for good behavior. When she is released, she does make a public apology. Now, whether she meant it or not is up for debate. I personally don't think she meant it at all. And despite her seemingly getting off easy, she does not have the happiest of endings. After all, she dies less than 10 years later due to health issues at the age of 58. Now, almost a year after Melvin walks free, on October 1st of 1992, the new owners of his home decide that it's time for this ugly carpet to go, okay? They had purchased this nice home from this man, but something wasn't quite right about the carpet. When the carpet is pulled up, they uncover a vent in the floor. And they think it's pretty odd for the vent to have been covered by carpet. But what's even more odd is the fact that there's a small bag inside of it with jewelry and 3 rolls of camera film. They are developed, and it is 135 photos of Brenda enduring every single horrific thing that Mary claimed Melvin had done to her. And the jewelry is the same jewelry that Brenda was returning to Melvin. Now, here in the U.S., the double jeopardy law prevents people from being tried twice for a crime. So they cannot arrest him for this, even though he's very obviously committed this crime, which sucks. Even with this photo evidence, they cannot retry him for this same crime. What they can and do charge and arrest him for is 3 federal counts of perjury for lying to the grand jury about not having done this. To minimize his time, he cuts a deal with prosecutors and pleads guilty to the perjury charges. He is also required to publicly admit to committing this act and is then sentenced to serve a minimum of 8 years in prison. He also apologizes to Brenda's family and asks for forgiveness and assures them that despite the horrific acts that preceded her death, her final moments were very peaceful. He also claims that he has since, of course, found God, and that back then he didn't know God like that. So he was out here just making bad decisions. Now, although he had cut a deal with prosecutors, once he was in jail, he did file a motion to reduce his sentence because he says that he had done the courts a favor by saving them time and money, not going to trial and just pleading guilty. And for that, he should be cut a little more slack, in his humble opinion. The motion is, of course, denied, and he is set to be released from prison on October 31st of 1997. Get this, 8 days before his release date, he is hit with yet another federal perjury charge for testifying under oath in trial that he had not committed these acts. They really played it smart this time around. For this perjury charge, he is sentenced to another 9 years in prison. So he don't get out in 8 days, baby. They just start his 9-year sentence. And he is released in 2006. on December 1st of 2008, just 2 years later, and nearly 20 years to the date that he had taken Brenda's life. Now 70-year-old Melvin Ignatow takes a nasty little tumble to the ground inside of his home, hitting the glass coffee table on his way down, severing an artery. Blood trails throughout the home show that he did move around a little bit before ultimately sliding down the wall and bleeding out. If that's not poetic justice, baby, I don't know what is, because he had tied Brenda to that coffee table and did what he had done to her. And look at him, falling and hitting his little arteries on a coffee table and child, done. One thing about karma, baby, she does not miss, okay? This was a wild one. I feel like he definitely got what he deserved. And yeah, kudos to karma. All right, you guys, that concludes today's video. Don't forget to comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let's chat about it. Like this video, share with a friend, subscribe if you have not. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. And Paw Patrol on the loose, excuse us. Today we will be discussing the case of Melvin Ignatow and Mary Ann Shore. Okay. Grr. Thanks to today's sponsor, and the benefits. Okay. They also have an app. Now, Brenda and her best friend Joyce, they had similar experiences. The wind is going crazy. Financially cure. I was going to say financially cure. Where is the C? Mary and Melvin had almost dropped my brush. The car's right tires are flat. Oh no. What the hell? The prosecutor asked, why is the wind doing all of that? Unnecessary. Over these past couple of weeks okay. Afterward, he had taken Brenda. They have Mary not wear a conversation, girl, jeez. Melvin is released from prison on December 31st, 1991. No, he not.